Welcome to another episode of Creators Outlet, of course, brought to you by our friends over at the Inked Marketing Team. If you have a crowdfunder that you're having trouble with or you're nervous about crowdfunding for the first time, contact Kevin Gillette over at the Inked Marketing Team, and they can get you through start to finish. They're going to do all the hard work that you really don't want to do outside of appearing on a Million to One podcast. Speaking of which, we're also part of the NSC Roadshow that'll get you to podcasts all around the globe to help you fulfill your crowdfunder. Speaking of crowdfunders, it's Dustin Brunell, and he's listening.
I try to anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, once in a while.
Right. I get it. I'm there. How's it going, everybody? Glad to be here, Will. Always a fan of hanging out with Will. It's a good time. I actually have a show on the road show as well. So make sure you guys hop on that road show. It's a good time, man. With Inked is great. So what have you got going on right now, Will?
I got a lot of stuff going on. I've been getting books and I've been finding books and
well, that's a given. You and your finding books.
I'm like, I didn't know I had the Teen Titans 44 laying around, and I had all 4 issues, no board, all in one bag, because you get like a cool story arc inside of a title. Right. You're like, well, I want to keep these all together so I can read them again.
Right on.
So they're just sitting there like all 4 of them in one bag, and I'm like, holy shite.
I get that for sure. Well, you know me, I'm going through books all the time myself, and now we're putting books out. So that's an exciting thing, right? I believe that you've read Greed, actually, my latest book. Did I send you Greed, or did I send you the listener Win Wins Weep?
You sent me the script for the next listener.
Gotcha. Okay. I need to send you a copy of Greed. It's a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it. The book is done. So we're just waiting on some covers to come in and stuff. Kickstarter goes live on April 23rd. I think, the best way that I could describe Greed to somebody would be like, it's like Shaun of the Dead mixed with Little Monsters, right? If you guys don't remember Little Monsters, it's a great film with Howie Mandel. Definitely need to check it out. I think that's early 90s that movie came out.
Oh, yeah.
Great film. Howie Mandel and what was the guy's Fred Savage.
Fred Savage. The Almost Robin.
That's right. The Almost Robin. How funny that you remember that.
Lots of stupid comic book facts in this.
Right on. I got you for sure. I'm gonna have you on my show next week talking about superhero movies. So we'll have to get into that. But anyway, so we got a lot going on with Greed. You've got Oz. You got a 10-year-old boy and his monster under the bed. His name is Cade. It's a lot of fun, guys. Like, I'll be honest with you. It's a standalone spinoff from the Listener series. And it's based 40 years, now almost 70 years, actually, after the Listener. So after the issues that we've got out now. So as the listener keeps going forward, you guys will get more and more caught up with everything going on between the 2 books. Because, like I said, they're in the same world, just different time periods. And you go from this like awesome soldier guy to this like young dude that doesn't know anything about anything but computers and going to school. So we're having a lot of fun with that, and expect a lot of witty banner, like old school Spider-Man banner that you would have gotten back in the day. Mm-hmm. It's big fights, big colors. We've got an amazing cover team. Oh my gosh, we've got Rich Parada on the covers for that. Phil Leon is actually coloring that cover. We're really excited to have him part of this. He's editing that book actually as well, so that's cool. We've got, oh man, let's see. Let me grab the list. That's how many people are doing covers for this book that I need a list. Manuel Soto is doing a cover. David Ocampo is doing a cover. Both those guys are the interior duo that do this book, by the way. Awesome stuff. I'll bring up a cover that you guys can see It was really, really good. Let me pop that up real quick. Finding folders is nuts. So, Greed covers. And this is April's cover. We just got it today. So I'm really excited to show it to you guys.
Here we go.
A lot of fun with this cover. Like, sure, it takes me back to being that kid, like, that would make like a fort in his bedroom. You know what I mean? So they're under his bed right now with the flashlight and stuff. And it's just a lot of fun to me. You know, like, it really does take me back to being a kid and, you know, making my own blanket forts and hiding under my bed and all that good jazz. And it's a way for us to show a little bit more into this world and how we can relate to it. I'll throw you guys some other art while we're looking real quick. So concept art. This was one of the first pieces that Manny did for Greed. And this was his colors. And then when we got David to come over and work with us from the listener to come over and work on it, this is what he came up with. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. Like, conceptually, the colors are great. They vibe real well.
The glowing smoke coming off.
Right, man. So much fun. And these are some of the early concepts for the characters. We went through a couple different renditions Manny was doing, and they all came out really, really good, you know, and a lot of fun. Like, I've really enjoyed working with the team on this book. Oh, there's Rich Parada's cover before Phil started coloring it.
Yeah, I was actually on Rich's feed in the chat when he was drawing this, and I was like, I was like trying to figure out, and then he started blowing everybody's mind by you know, using the whiteout.
Oh man, how cool was that, right? Oh, so awesome. He called it the reverse Kirby crackle.
Yeah, and that was just sick.
So cool, man. I mean, just the talent that we've got involved for this book is absolutely wild. I can show you guys some page concepts. Like, I love this page too. This was a lot of fun. Just like with Eric and the listener, I feel like these guys like reach into my brain and just pull pages out, you know. But we've had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, the book is done now, so we're already beginning to work on book 2 and whatnot, which is a lot of fun as well. You know, we're introducing some really wild characters in the next few books. If you notice some of the names that you'll start seeing with Greed, you know, Justin Hunt, we've got Becky Fuller, you know, who else is doing covers for book 3? David Fott's doing cover for book 2. David Fott's doing a cover for book 2. You know, lots of people that have a lot in common, and you'll start noticing what I mean as the book progresses. We're going to start introducing some female characters, which we don't really have much of in the listener currently. So you'll get to see, like, Lee is an adult coming up in Greed, which she was introduced in the first book of the listener. So you'll get her all grown up. But why isn't she an old lady? We'll figure that out too. You'll start getting into some of that stuff. Where is the listener during Greed? All that stuff. Everybody's trying to find him. You know, so there's all these stories that, like I said, it's a very self-contained book. But there are stories, if you're interested in continuing to learn more, you can gain that from reading the other book. And I think that's a lot of fun, because my biggest issue with comic books now, and it's been forever, is I want to know more about the characters in the background than just the one character that we're reading about. You know, like, because they're interesting. You know, Batman had a plethora of amazing characters. Spider-Man as well. You know, all these books have great. X-Men was the worst, right? They'd have different X-Men in different books, and it'd be like you'd have to chase down something to read about your books. And you know what, guys? You don't get that kind of thing, you know, because of the fact that when we were younger and those X-Men books were coming out, we were having to chase books, but we didn't have the internet to find them, you know, so we wouldn't get to read all about the characters we wanted to read about. We'd have to read about whatever X-Men book we could get our hands on. So
But if he were the first kid to the newsstand,
yeah,
every week, you'd have a better chance of getting that X-Men issue.
for sure.
And then back then we had like the old school Comic-Cons, the VFW hall, and like three or four stores would show up and all come to a big room. You're like,
yeah. Well, I didn't get that as a kid. I got the 7-Eleven once a month and the spinner rack and the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, so, I got the spinner rack. My friends that I talk to all the time now, we call each other the comic heads. We all have nicknames. My buddy Chris is Darth. My buddy Tony is Moff. You can see where this is going.
Yeah.
And
Star Wars fans all day for sure.
And I am Major General. So, but I used to go to Merlin's Pharmacy up the top of my street with my mother, like on a Sunday, and she would let me pick out one, maybe two comic books off the spinner rack.
Right.
So I mean, I showed you the Batman book with the creeper kicking the crap out of him on the cover before. And I still have that book, and that's the first book I bought with my own money that I earned, like doing, raking leaves for neighbors,
right on.
Hustling, doing whatever.
That's right. For sure. I used to do that. We'd work around the farm and stuff, and we'd get $1.50 a month, and we could go down and get a book. You know what I mean? That was, and you guys laugh. $1.50 would get you a book back then. You could get a book for $1.50.
$1.50 in my day would get us a handful.
Yeah. I couldn't get a handful, but I could get one at least. You know what I mean? And I think that now I think we're very spoiled when it comes to being comic collectors now, because we have the internet and we have eBay and we have Amazon and everything else. Whereas, when we were younger, we had to hunt these books. But so Greed is a way for me to show you guys characters that I really find interesting that I don't get to show as much as I would like in the listener. So I can play with them a little bit more. I can, build their stories out, and I can give you guys even more of these awesome characters we're bringing to life. Whereas the listener is very in our world, very alive and very realistic currently, before we get into the spiritual realm and stuff. The exact opposite is what Greed is. Greed is very much into the spiritual realm from the get-go, because I wanted to give you this story from a 10-year-old's point of view, but he's a 10-year-old kid. I can't have him getting all beat up and dying or anything. You know what I mean? So we had to make sure that we could give you guys a way to tell you these amazing stories, but we have a lot more protagonists and antagonists than we're showing at the very beginning. Because like I said, this all ties into one large story down the road. With Lee showing up in book 3. So that's how early she'll be showing up in the series. And she'll begin teaching Oz what it is to exist in this world, that's going on, and maybe teaching him a little bit more about that little demon that runs around with him, who's not going to care for the fact that she has a little bit more knowledge than he would like. So, we're getting into all that. I'm also writing the novel about it right now too. So there's a lot going back and forth. I actually deleted like 10 pages on accident today, which really bummed me out, because I was trying to delete a file and I deleted the wrong file, and it was just not wise of me. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. But there are things that I've talked about in the listener that are very prevalent. Like stepping over to the other side into the spiritual realm. Oz spends a lot of time there, because in that realm he can get places, and we have him use that differently than Addie would use it, because Addie's a grown dude. He can go do whatever he wants, wherever he wants. He doesn't know how to enter that realm yet in the series. The boy is being taken there through his monster under the bed, through Cade, who's actually moving him back and forth between these realms. And they can use that as a means to avoid detection from certain people or certain things. And that's a lot of fun as well, to be able to hop back and forth and show you guys the different realms. We had a good time with that. David came up with this really cool way to show off the factor in the spiritual realm instead of just doing the blacks and whites like we do in the listener. He added a hue to it to match the art style we have, and he also added this like ripple effect to anything that's not moving. Like, so your wall would have like a ripple, and it would be almost like a dream state, that you were seeing. And that's been a lot of fun seeing that develop. The different things the guys and girls are bringing to the team. We went from a team of, oh my gosh, like 6 with the listener to like almost 18 people now. So it's become a large production. In my mind, that's a large production. You know what I mean? 18 people is a good sum of people. And we're all, in it, man. And it's so much fun to see how it's developing with these different types of people and to see their different styles come in. Book 2, you guys get Lilith. And for any of you that know anything about the character, she's a wild one. I'm sure Phil knows enough about Lilith to fill a decent sized bucket. But she's a wild one. And you're talking about like the Queen of Horrors meeting a 10-year-old boy that has no idea what that even is. So, she's definitely got her ideas of how things need to be done. And we're really glad that he's got a little green dude hanging out with him, or that'd be bad situations for a 10-year-old kid. So we're having, it's a world building experience. So every block gets you guys so much more knowledge. I don't want to overflow books with just filler. I don't want to overflow books with too much character building, but I want you guys to get an idea of where you're going, the direction we're going, because neither series has an end date. I'm 37 books written in the listener right now. I'm 8 books written in Greed now, so plus the novel. So there's really no end in my story yet. I don't foresee there being an end. There's an end for characters, main characters. There are ends for them where mantles will be picked up by other people and so on. But I think that in the end, it'll all culminate, and we'll be, once I can successfully get to the point where I've told enough story and I can integrate these tales into one book, I think we'll eventually get to doing a larger book instead of just doing 24 pages. I think it'll probably be a bigger book than that, and it'll be every other month, just like we're doing now, but it'll have both stories in it at the same time. This is a means to an end for me to get the stories to where we need them to be before I get to that point.
Now, how are you alternating listener and Greed funding wise?
So all my books are paid for up front. And that's not changed. You know what I mean? I'm a book ahead for both series right now. And what we do with the Kickstarter is to fund the next book. It's never to fund the book we're on. And I think that's very important for people to understand who back books, because a lot of people are very wary of backing a book. They don't know if it's going to get done, it's finished, or whatever, and what have you. All my books are already done. You know what I mean? There's never a time when I'll go to Kickstarter without a book that's finished. So just because it has to do with my pride and the fact that I want to make sure you guys get the books. Like I just got paid for Kickstarter for When Winds Weep just the other day. I still don't. It's still processing currently, but I literally had already ordered everybody's order for the last Kickstarter. It's already coming. You know what I mean? So. That's something to think about when you order from us, and something that you can make confidence in when you decide that you want to order a book from us. Same thing with Greed. It's already done. It's already paid for. We're working on book 2 now. You know what I mean? How we can this coming up, this Kickstarter coming up, starting on April 23rd, will fund the second book. But yeah, so we're alternating. So what we're doing is. Greed will come out Kickstarter will start the 23rd, and it ends in May. And then in June, the listener Kickstarter comes out. So right about the time that Greed is going out, you'll be getting your copy of the listener When Winds Weep. And then as the listener Kickstarter is ending, you'll be receiving your copy of Greed. So it's literally, it's almost like a monthly series. That's the best way I can put it, because the way that it's dropping, it took me a little while to get this situated because of the way that Kickstarter works. They hold your money for 2 weeks, so on and so. It takes this much time to print, all those things. So it's like it took me a while to figure out this semblance of sanity in printing and shipping out books. Plus we've got shows going on now, starting up again. We can actually go to cons again. Really excited about that. As far as I'm aware, I think we are stuck behind these plexiglass walls, though, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know that I'm a fan of that. We were joking about it on our show the other night. It's like, hey, look, I get we want to be safe. You can wear a mask, be safe, but you don't need to put me behind a fishbowl. You know what I mean? If I don't have it by now, but so
no, I can see the headlines already. Crisis at the cons.
Right.
Creators in cages.
Yeah, that's basically what it's going to be like. As far as I know, that we are going to be behind some kind of something. I don't know that for every show, but I know that for at least 1 or 2 of them that I'm going to be behind some plastic. That being said as well, guys, don't freak out. I'll have the cube. We can still do the card readers and stuff. I'll still take cash. I'm not losing my mind or anything. You know what I mean? I do think I understand where people are coming from. And I want you guys to go at this with an open mind. Any con goers, do it with an open mind, because it's no more fun for us than it is for you having to sit behind those things. Because we do like the interaction. We do want to talk. We do want to be around people. We are not trying to alienate you from that experience, which is the con experience. And we all love that, right? So, yeah. So I'll still be signing books. We'll still be signing prints. We'll still be doing all kinds of shenanigans. We'll still be having a good time. You know what I mean? We'll have to do it in a different way, but we'll evolve. We'll adapt to it. You know what I mean? Who knows how it'll work? Maybe folks will loosen up by day 2, day 3. You know what I mean? We can shimmy around a little bit, come over and take a picture, shake your hand or something. We'll figure it out. As long as they don't tell us we can't. If it gets to the point where, shenanigans are ensuing, whatever. But to be fair, all these events are still having, movie stars and actors and all kinds of other shenanigans too. So I don't see that we should be treated any different than they are. So we'll see how it goes, because I'll be live, guys, for all these events. At least one night at most of them. I know the ICCC, I'll be live as long as the internet supports it. So we'll go live Friday night and we'll run camaraderie from there. And, we'll talk about stuff, how the con's going, what it feels like. Because I know people are real interested about what's going on. I'll have greed stuff. I'll have listener stuff. I'm really excited to show you guys some more greed. I have to wait a little bit on some of that stuff. Because, once again, being done, though, I still like to give everybody time to get all their stuff all the way done. You know what I mean? We need to make sure the colors are right here. All the interiors are done. We'll put it that way. But I still like to make sure everybody's comfortable. I don't like to rush people, for a cover date or anything like that. So as soon as it's all situated, you guys will start seeing more covers. You'll get the notification for the Greed Kickstarter soon. So you guys can check that out and follow that and get all the news and intel on that. I feel like that anybody that enjoyed, do you remember Mighty Max, Will?
Yeah.
I feel like anybody that enjoyed Mighty Max, the cartoon, will really, really enjoy Greed. I really feel like that's the gut feeling I've got, because the early reviews that we've got are really, really good, and, people miss that. Those guys of us that were, born in the early 80s, to the mid 80s, we enjoyed those types of cartoons, the Street Sharks and Gargoyles and all those really fun, even the Mighty Ducks cartoon was great. It was really, really good. Didn't make any sense. None of it was feasible. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it was a lot of fun. And I think that's what makes those types of things fun. In Greed, book 1, the main protagonist is a giant Minotaur demon, a massive Minotaur demon. And he's literally going at it with Cade throughout this house. and it's like, how wild would it be to see this massive minotaur going down, a middle-class suburban home, just going at it with a little green demon. And I think that was a lot of fun for us all to conceptualize, because it's not a huge home. So you're putting this massive 8-foot tall creature that's got like a 4-foot, 2.5, 3-foot, shoulder span, in this hallway, so a lot of fun to see how all that went down. The climax is great. I have a habit of making my last page a lot of fun and leading into the next books. So we're going to continue that because.
And a splash page.
Man, I didn't forget splash pages. I promise. I promise I didn't. Now, because of the fact that it's not like normal human beings that you're going up against, they're a little less gory in that sense. You know what I mean? Than the listener is, but they're still as big. They're still as fun. They're still as wild. I mean, even with Manny and David doing the pages, I'm still a part of that process. You know what I'm saying? So it's not I'm not as into it as I am with the listener, because these guys are super talented. They're really, really talented. And, a bunch of these dudes have been in this industry for 20 and 30 years that are working on Greed. So it's it's less that I have to be involved in, actually, to be honest with you. It's like I can literally give you a page layout and it's just like, holy crap, there's the page that like literally like floated out of my head and onto the paper, and that's a lot of fun, but it also gives me more time to focus on the listener. It gives me more time to focus on my book. Having a bigger team is like a production line, right? It's instead of being like two dudes beating it up for hours on end, it's a team that's literally like, okay, well, here's this, slide it down to the next person now. Oh, we did our part, slide it over here, and it's a very interesting process to watch, to watch how it all goes down. I think that it's very relevant in this day and age as well to show that I can bring in people that you may not know as well as you should, but we can introduce them, like Rich. Rich is an incredible artist. He's been around for, good Lord, 30 years in this industry almost. You know what I mean? So it's like we can show people off, and you can see how amazing their stuff is. You may not know, like I said, they may have been a letterer that you didn't know who they were, or they may have been an inker that you weren't familiar with, but they're out here doing lines with the best of them, and it's just so much fun to see the concepts and what people are coming up with. Like David's cover, no shit. So David's got 2 covers for me coming out. Acampo's got 2 covers coming out for me back to back right now. So he's got a cover for Greed coming out, and he's got a cover for the listener coming out. Both of them were like holy shit moments. Like the one for Greed is a lot like a holy shit moment, and it's gonna raise eyebrows, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, because I'll say this, and I've said it before. I've said it about in not even lewd covers, right? I'm not going that route with what I'm talking about right this second. But even you've seen guys put out covers that raised your eyebrows, when you see them. 9 times out of 10, you buy it because you want to know what's going on, or you buy it because you're a collector of eclectic titles and eclectic covers. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you, this is going to be awesome. Like, I cannot wait to see it colored. I'm like, it's blowing my mind, because it's so cool. And I'll say this, it's based on something that was painted somewhere and it's famous. And that's about all I'm going to give you on that, but it's more than I've given anybody else. So, and knowing where we're at and how religion is involved in my books, for those of you that haven't read anything from me, the world I've created, every religion exists. Like, they all exist. So, like, you could feasibly, however unlikely, you could see God talking, or Christ talking to Odin and Zeus at the same time. You know what I mean? Those are things that could feasibly happen in this world. Not that you'd be privy to them or invited to those conversations, but they may or may not happen, just like Lucifer talking to Hades. You'll see that happens a lot, because one wants what the other one has, and one wants things to say how they are. So it's a very different concept with those characters. Lucifer in my book is not a bad guy, and I think that's something different in itself. He's a very neutral character, and he wants things to remain the way they are, because, I mean, he's preparing for the end times because he believes there'll be an end times, whereas the other gods aren't so keen on that idea. So he wants to keep things the way they are. Whereas Hades would rather own all of hell and Helheim and everywhere else than have Hades down there at all, or have Lucifer down there at all. Whereas in our book, because of the fact that more people believe in Lucifer, he's more powerful than Hades is. So what we do with, like, we use power levels like Dragon Ball or something to give you guys an idea of things. The more people believe, the stronger they are in our book. You know what I'm saying? So like your Celtic gods and stuff that aren't believed as much, or even Egyptian gods that are not worshipped as much as they once were, they're at a lower tier. Not to say they're not as important, but they're not as powerful as these things that are worshipped constantly. Whereas like Christ is at the top of the chain because there's more believers in Christianity than just about anything else, and we bring that a lot into play. Like our characters are probably not going to run into like Odin or Zeus or Christ, because why would these monstrous beings have anything to do with these, this 10-year-old kid and his monster under the bed? That's not to say that they may not see them, but it is what it is. I think one of the most interesting things that we're going to start talking about, the first main story arc that you guys are going to get, if you're a fan of certain things, you'll get it, is the Serpent Tree. And that'll start in book 3. You'll get your first view of the Serpent Tree in book 3, and that'll probably go for 5 or 6 issues. I'm not quite sure where I'm cutting it, how I'm cutting it off, because for those of you that have not wrote a comic book before, or wrote a novel, or a script, I write everything like a book because I'm writing a book at the same time. So it comes out accidentally almost. Then I have to go back, and it takes me a few days, but I break down things into a comic book, into that format. So you have to go back in. Your artist can only put so many panels on a page, and you want them to look good. So you don't want to jam everything on a page. So we go back in, we break it down, and then we figure out what we have to cut, what we can keep, and what we can merge together. What panels we can actually just put into one panel and give you the same imagery we were trying to give you in 2 of them. It's very interesting because the Serpent Tree is huge, and it's going to be massive in the book. So, I mean, you're talking miles upon miles high, and we jokingly talk about it being as wide as like a football field, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Like, what's it doing? Where did this massive tree come from? What does it have? The effect does it have on the town? You know what I mean? All these things. And then you've also, once again, I mentioned you get introduced to Lilith in the second book. What are her feelings going to be about this massive tree that's shown up out of nowhere? How does she feel about, Cade and Oz? You're going to learn all about that in book 2. Maybe a little bit more background on Cade. You're going to get a lot of stuff. And like I said, it's a lot of fun, big action sequences, oh my gosh, big monsters, big demons, big gods, Kukulain's going to show up in book 3. Really excited about that. Because I've been really hyped about writing him into the listener, and he's like 20-something books past where we are right now in the listener. So I was really hyped about getting to put him into here. And for those of you that don't know Kukulain, you should check him out. Great god, a really cool character. And then you get Lee and Arya in book 3 as well. You get a lot of big introductions in book 3. Why are they here? You'll figure it out. You'll get to read about stuff like that. But interesting tit for tat is Lee and Arya, who we give a little bit away about in book 3, but they'll have their own miniseries, just like Death has his own miniseries coming out next year. So you guys will get a little bit more back them and their backstories. They aren't the main characters for the book. So like I said, I am trying to give you guys what I always missed out on, the stories about those characters. So they're much more prevalent in the listener than they are in Greed, but you'll get to see them. You'll get them for a few books at a time here and there. They'll show up back and forth. But they're a lot of fun. I mean, who doesn't love a lesbian duo between an Asian chick and her dead girlfriend that she doesn't want to be her girlfriend anyway, but is tied to her for eternity? So I'm really excited to see how that, pans out. Who happens to be a noble spirit? How'd she get to be a noble spirit? She's not a listener. So we'll see. That's a lot of fun. I'm excited to start seeing covers. The cover art's going to be a blast. That's also an exclusive for Will there, because nobody else knows about those characters being what they are. So I'm excited about that. It's a lot. It's a lot to go through, guys. It's a lot to see. It's a lot to read. Like I said, big action sequences.
More importantly, are we getting Cade plushies?
I've beaten myself up trying to get action figures made. Like, I have literally beaten myself up. And because of the fact, and I can build the rig, I can do the model and everything else. But when it comes to making a mold and 3D printing and all kinds of other stuff, we're learning a lot about smaller press industries and stuff, where we can get some help on, because that ties into the Road to Sin and me trying to get miniatures made for that, which is still going on, guys. If any of you guys are curious, the Road to Sin is definitely a thing. I'm currently working on a business plan for the bank for that one. So that won't go to Kickstarter, I don't think, if I can help it. That'll go straight into production. So, but we're working on plushies. We're working on action figures. We're working on minis, all kinds of shenanigans, actually. And it's fun to see these characters come to life, in different manners than you had planned originally. And as they develop, they develop their own state of mind and state of being, almost like they're their own characters outside of your creation. When I write, it's almost like you let them go. You know what I mean? And a lot of people joke and stuff, and my wife talks about it all the time. Greed is like the book where I let my hair down. And that's the best way I could describe it. You know what I mean? Because it's the listener is very serious, and it's a lot of fun, but it's really serious, and it's it's a thinking individual's book. Whereas Greed, you can pick it up and go, holy crap, that's awesome, and you can put it back down. You know what I mean? Versus the listener, where you're keeping up with. If the listener's like that, like a movie where you have to pay attention, like you need the kids to go out of the room and you need to have a nice, have a nice drink, be sitting with your spouse or your significant other or what have you, or even by yourself, but just have your own zone time to pay attention to it. Whereas Greed is like, I can get Greed while my kids are running around acting like hoodlums, and I can still enjoy it. And I think that's the difference in the two books, the level of seriousness versus there's comedy in Greed. And there's fart jokes and all kinds of other fun stuff, whereas there's none of that in the listener. And I think that's
I would equate it to Greed. If they were done by other properties like other publishers, Greed would be an Image book, and the listener would be in the old Vertigo.
Yeah, for sure. Right on. That would be the way to look at it, because even like I feel like the listener ties in with like the original Conan stuff when it was big, like when it was the big prints, the Turok books when it was the big magazine size printings and stuff. Greed is like, oh my gosh, like I fucking hate Fairyland. You know what I mean?
So do I.
Oh,
the book, yeah.
Right. Right. It's like that to me. You know what I mean? I can go in and it can be comic and it can be fun, but it's just as dark and just as gnarly without the colors that, that particular book likes to use. But we do try to keep it, to the roots of the characters, the roots of the gods and everything like that. Most of those are I'm pretty straightforward and finicky about that stuff. It needs to be just right. If a god didn't have wings, he's probably not going to have wings. And I know people are like, well, we've never seen a god. And I get that. But I try to stick close to the source material for what we're using, whereas Lilith is so wild. And it's going to be so much fun to see her interactions with these characters, how she ties into the story, because she's basically the queen of our town where everybody's at. And we don't know that until we get into the story and stuff like that. But she's basically like, I got one. So True Blood, right? My wife was a huge fan. She's like the sheriff of the town. That's a really good way for me to describe her. She's like the sheriff. She makes sure certain demons are doing what they're supposed to. They're only killing enough people and bringing enough souls down that they're supposed to, so on and so forth. Like she's super surprised to see Cade, and that's going to be a lot of fun interactions between the two of them because Cade has a worse mouth than anybody you've seen in the listener so far. Like Cade is probably the reason my daughter may never get to read that book. And he's in every issue and just about every page. So she may not get to read it strictly because of him. I really do think that it takes me back to our youth, like the shows we used to watch, but turning them all into an almost adult themed show. You know what I mean? Like I mentioned earlier, Gargoyles was a lot of fun. It would have been even more fun if it had been written strictly for adults. I'm just saying, and that's how we've written Greed. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun and it's a good time, but there's a lot of depth into it. Just give it time to evolve. We'll show you guys the good stories and stuff. You're not always going to get in your face action, which I love. I love in your face action. So, I thought that putting the Minotaur in the book to show the size difference between himself and Cade was great, because people root for the underdog, you know what I mean? And then Manny and David, they have a way of show. Here, let me show you guys. Actually, I did a post about it the other day. Manny and David have an incredible way of showing off Cade's facial expressions. Like, it's so much fun. Let's see, we're over here. Concept art, artists, samples. We're not in samples. We're above samples, right? Okay, samples, head finale. Here we go. See, like this to me is a lot of fun. Like they have a way of showing you different aspects. Like he's happy, he's excited, he's irritated, and I think Cade does need a plushie. I really do. I think it's a lot of fun. But I think he's what I've always wanted in a little buddy. Like, when you were younger, you always wanted a little brother if you didn't have one, but this is like the opposite. Like the little brother is teeny tiny, or the older brother is teeny tiny, and the little brother is much taller than he is, and the interactions between the two of them are great. Because there's stuff where Oz is like, hey, look, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm 10 years old. Definitely not supposed to do that. And Cade's like that devil on your shoulder that's like, hey, we might be able to get away with that. You know what I mean? We might be able to. But there's nobody on the other side telling him he's wrong. So it's just am I going to get caught aspect of what we're doing. Now, there are a lot of things in comic books that I've always thought needed to be addressed. Like I mentioned, characters that you don't see or stories that you don't get because you don't get the characters. Oz's parents are very prevalent. He's 10 years old. They have to be prevalent in the story. So how is he getting out past his parents, in the middle of the night? How are we getting through, so on and so forth? Like I mentioned before, entering the spirit realm, they can't be seen by his parents. You know what I mean? So that's one way for them to get out of the house and stuff. But at the same time, I check on my kids at night. You know what I mean? My son's got a monitor in his room, you know, and it's like, okay, well, if you're going to get out of my house, both my kids are upstairs. First off, they have to come downstairs, you know, and I think those are important things. Like most normal folks, you're not going to sneak out past your mom and dad who are up till, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night anyway,
Well,
some people are skilled. Some people are skilled, I'm not saying we can't all be like, Will and climbing out the window and Spider-Man into the tree across the way and then climbing down, but there are fun things about that. We bring up the fact that in the first book, the house gets trashed. It absolutely gets trashed, but somehow it gets fixed. The parents are kind of confused about how it gets fixed. All of a sudden you start hearing about a gas leak that happened. There are interesting things and how we get around certain things and aspects of this. Not to mention we talk about insurance. When we gotta, the house got tore up, somebody's got to pay for it. Or oh my gosh, there was an explosion in town. That's what blew out all the windows on the street. And things like that. And I think it's fun. It builds the world. It makes it a more feasible and believable aspect of things to walk past a television set like they used to do in the older comics. You don't see a lot of that in modern stuff, but you'll walk past it and there'll be blurbs about what's going on in the town, what's going on with the mayor or whatever, what have you. I think those are very important aspects to storytelling. We have to give you a world. I can't just give you what's going on within a 5-meter distance of our characters. We have to build around it. There's a character that you'll run into in book 3 of Greed that has a tattoo that's shown in the listener. Like I said, you don't have to know what it is, but you'll get an idea and understand it. But if you've read the listener, you'll know exactly what it is. If you've read book 2 of the listener, you'll automatically know what the tattoo is. You know what I mean? So it's little things. It's just like a relationship. I want a good relationship with my readers. I give you the little details, little Easter eggs here and there. You know what I mean? If you paid attention, fine. If you didn't, it's not going to hurt you. It's just small little tidbits. And it's a lot of fun to me to be able to drop details. Like when the listener gets caught up to this time period, if you don't think that I'm going to be pulling from the Greed books, like backstory from the Greed books for it, I'm sorry. I'm definitely going to be pulling intel. You know what I mean? Because there'll be things going on in the world at the same time. Where's the listener? What's going on with the listener? Why can't Arya and Lee find the listener? Those are all topics that'll come up in both books. But if you're reading the listener, you'll get more listener and less Lee and Arya versus back and forth. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see where we take it. And what people think about it.
And I'll be excited to keep hounding Phil.
Right on.
Are you done with the colors for Greed? Because I need to order my copy.
Right. I'm sure that he's almost done because he sent me that days ago. Here, let me see if I've got. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. What he sent. It looks really, really good though. He's done awesome stuff with it.
Yeah, he works with a really cool palette.
He does, man. He does. And his process is really fun to watch as well. Like he's just uber talented, man. And it's a lot of fun to watch his system when he's putting pages together and stuff. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. Like my stuff gets lost. All right, here we go. Because I get so many, I just created a Facebook group to keep up with the team because the text stuff gets lost. There it is. That's what he's working on. That's what he's got so far. How cool, right? Conceptually, it's so much fun because they added the spiritual realm behind them. Like the stairs are all warped and stuff, and the stuff on the wall,
and the waviness behind them.
Right. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how
it gives you almost that old Stargate vibe,
right. Absolutely.
with like a little D&D mixed in there.
Right. And it's just it's so interesting to see different people's takes on it. Let me pull up. Well, I showed you the other cover earlier. So yeah, those are the only two I've got that are finished right now. Well, not finished, but almost finished right now.
Mm-hmm.
But they're so much fun. Like everybody's talents are so different. You know, they bring different styles to the table. And Rich and Phil are actually going to be working on covers and interiors for the Death miniseries that's coming out next year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So all kinds of shenanigans going on with us, cool books coming out, different series coming out. I'm really proud of everyone, like ridiculously proud of everyone. You included, man. You've been with my books since the beginning. You know, you were the very first show that I did. And I'll eternally grateful for that. Eternally grateful for everybody I would work with. You know, my wife editing the listener books and Phil editing the Greed books. And it's just been a wild, wild ride, you know. And with the road show, you know, and us doing comic camaraderie, we'll be able to do more and show more and get our presence out there even more. And like Kyle right now, Kyle is opening a brick and mortar for Cowabunga Comics in Florida. That's really exciting as well. So that's one of the stores that our books will be in. That's just because I own half of it, and it's producing our books, you know. But it's really exciting. I'm very proud of him.
I can already see this. Kyle's opening up the store in Florida. That way, when you go down to get more ink, he's going to put you to work for the weekend.
Absolutely. Well, so on what is the weekend before Memorial Day? We've got a show Memorial Day weekend that's going to be absolutely insane, and we're going to try to do a live cast from that too. That'll be we'll be there with Marissa Pope, Mike DeBalfo, Ryan Kincaid, Ebbas. Lots of fun folks are going to be at that show. But the couple days before, we're getting tattooed, and I'll get tattooed live, so you guys can see the first listener tattoo get done. So we're going to do that live at the shop, get some books signed by Gabby for you guys while we're there. And then we'll see Kyle and get Kyle to sign some books, you know, for book one of the listener. We'll get him to do some. And book two, I think I'll have those by then. So Kyle did a store exclusive for our buddy Jordan Hull for the listener book two, When Winds Weep. So yeah, we'll get those signed, and we'll get you guys some more intel on those. But yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. So speaking of Greed, I just got a message just a little bit ago from April, who's doing a cover, and holy crap, and Becky too. Becky is going to Becky's got is just finishing her cover up, and we're going to get that colored for her. But April is doing her pencils. She's putting her pencils on the Kickstarter. So for her cover. So if you guys are into cover art, like original OG cover art, pay attention to that Kickstarter, guys, in April or at the end of this month. Jesus, we're almost there. April 23rd. So she's $200 for her pencils, guys, for the cover. So
for the 11x17 cover.
Yeah, like the original cover art. Yeah. It's not inked or colored, mind you. It is the pencils, but $200 for an amazing piece.
That is cheap AF.
Right. So we're really excited. We've also
see what I did there. I abbreviated it so I can when I upload this to the podcast to be downloaded, the audio, I can still click clean on it.
Right. Can we click clean? But I was talking about a cover, a title. I didn't actually drop the. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, so you've got, not only do you have that coming out on that Kickstarter, but we've got multiple team members that are doing blank cover sketches. So you guys will be able to do sketch ops from several of the team members.
Sketch ups on the blanks.
Right. That's going to be exciting. They're $75 a piece. And they're full covers. You guys aren't getting just a doodle, you know what I mean? They're full covers. So you'll get a full cover, and then that include then $20 for the book itself. You know what I mean? So I'm excited about that. So it's $95 for a sketch cover, full sketch cover. And all these guys are super talented, guys and gals. I don't want to just say guys.
Is that so the sketch covers, are those pencils and inks or just pencils?
I'm fairly certain it's both from everybody I've heard, and colors. So yeah. So I'm don't quote me on everybody, but I'll add that to the Kickstarter when I find out individually who's doing what.
Yeah, but, what's available here and there.
Right. Yeah. Because everybody's different. You know what I mean? Everybody's got different stuff.
I mean, I like original pencil artwork.
Absolutely. That's stunning.
And, sometimes I like it with color.
That's stunning as well, Mr. Joker fan.
So,
I'm with you on that. That's super cool. Well, I like a lot of that stuff too. I post my stuff every now and then when I'm cleaning up. But I think that you guys will be crazy surprised about some of the new talent we're bringing on. And just like I did for the listener, for book 2, I'll be doing a almost like a tribute to indie artists that are trying to get there, that haven't got published, with Guy's Journal, which we're still working on right now. Gabby is plodding away at that. You guys have to understand, for those of you that did pick up Guy's Journal from the Kickstarter, that's 30 painted pieces, like full painted pieces that are in that.
That's a lot, yeah.
So and one person is doing it. You know what I mean? So we're plodding along. We're getting closer and closer to have that piece finished. Mind you, I haven't even got all my money from Kickstarter yet, but that piece is almost done. I'm really excited you guys will get that. That's a 60-page book. For those of you that did order that. So what we're doing though is we're doing a really cool cover. And I'll say it. So I don't think anybody's going to try to steal a cover like this from me. That'll make me sad, and the rest of the world will be sad too. So, but then you'll be known, right? You'll be known. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so it's a really cool cover of Cade actually sitting in a chapel, and all this stained glass will be the light will be shining down on him through all this stained glass, and it'll be 3 pieces, 3 stained windows. And the stained windows are actually going to be artists, indie artists that have never been published. It'll be their work in these stained windows.
Oh, cool.
So I'm really, really excited about that. So that'll be Manny and David on that one, plus the indie artists, the unpublished artists. So I'm excited about that. And, we can be able to give them some cool credit and stuff. And they can say they're published. And then whenever anybody asks, they can have that on there, and we'll send them some books and some blanks so they can do some stuff for themselves on them. I'm really excited to be able to do small things like that. It's I do what I can, you know what I mean? Because nobody did it for me. You know what I mean? I didn't have people jumping up and down and going, hey, we're going to do this. You know what I mean? Let's do it. I had a couple dudes, because the listener came out of a eulogy. So it was like, I had a couple buddies that were like, hey, you gotta do something. You know what I mean? And I got emotional backing from friends. I'd like to be able to do more than that for people. Not to say that I didn't appreciate that, because I did more than I could ever explain. But to be able to help people in a different way is very important. And with Cowabunga, eventually we're also going to be picking up other titles, and producing other titles for people. So, mind you, Kyle and I are super like picky about who we're going to pick in for that, but we'll see, and the more you work with us, the better chances you have of getting published through us. So that's an exciting thing too. I don't know, man, it's a lot going on. I'm excited about a lot of things. Like I said, going to shows. I'm looking at MegaCon right now, and we'll be, posting up.
Oh, that's a great show too.
Oh, it is. It's a lot of fun, man. I've been to a few of them. I've been a vendor at one of them, and, been a guest 4 or 5 different times and really enjoyed it. My only thing with that is, it's a long way from me now. You know what I mean? Like, it's a long way. So I have a house down there, but I don't want to go by myself. So I'm trying to see who all's going, what's going on. You know what I mean? But $350 for a table for the weekend. It's like 4 days now, 5 days now that show is. So 4 days, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's worth it regardless. Like I said, I'll go down there and we'll do if I decide to do it, guys, here's another exclusive for you. We talked about a little bit at a few other places and maybe a couple shows we've mentioned a little bit, but I'll be doing a listener live show from my Uncle Les's house is where I'm going to do that show from.
Oh, man.
And I'm going to invite my grandmother. We're just going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend for a little bit. And right there from his house, because I don't think I could get a better connection anywhere else to him. So we'll do that. And we'll see how it goes, and with the show it being around that time period and stuff, I'm real excited. I'm excited to be able to be able to do that. You know what I mean? I'm thankful that, we're getting to keep his house and stuff, because a lot of people, they lose their stuff when they die, so we're very thankful that we're going to be able to keep that up, and another cool thing that we've just found out as well about that area is the timeshare that my family has. We've got a timeshare there too. So if we ever need to go, do a show down there, make sure you reach out to us, guys. If you're doing shows in Florida and you need somebody to come hang out, we'll come hang out. A good chunk of my art team works there, you know what I mean, or lives there. I'll come down, sign some books, put them in your shop. We'll do live shows all day.
Just put me in my wheelchair in a moving crate and take me down. I'll go.
In a moving crate? Oh, no.
Well,
I'll say this. If things get to where I would like them to be eventually, and I'm sure they will, because we're on a great path right now. So when they get to where they are, I'll be doing a lot more. And I'll be doing a lot more for people that have been there for me, and I appreciate it. So I'll be making some things happen. And it's all to give back, right? Like if, it's, and I joke about it and I say it all the time, and eventually somebody's going to joke about it and put it up on Facebook or something. But I always talk about, we eat together. That's how we eat. You know what I mean? I'm not a hippie. I'm not the big, kumbaya, everybody helps everybody, because that's not the real world. But the people that are on my team, they eat together. You know what I mean? That's how it works. And the guys that are on our covers, the guys that have, and the gals that are on our covers, they know they have work. They can always come back to our covers. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's amazing, and we're working with incredible people now. Like, look, not only did, I get with Kevin and Inked and add them as my marketing firm, but I also got to be my own show with Kevin on the road show, and then turned around and I got with Jim Noble, and now we have the other side on Wednesday nights, and that's just as much fun. You know what I mean? It's an adult-oriented show. We get together at 9 Central Time, and we just have a good time. We talk movies. Like this past week was, oh my gosh, we were talking about practical effects. You know what I mean? In 80s and 90s movies, and just having a lot of fun with it. So, this week coming up is space. And we're going to be talking about movies like Batteries Not Included and The Last Starfighter,
Killer Clowns.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Absolutely.
Yeah, I saw the trailer you put.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to get together with that. We've had some fun. We've done some cool promos, with him. And we've got one of Oz eating a cupcake, because they like to call Jim the Cupcake King and whatnot, so we also did one, his book, Totally Rad. I'm sure you're aware of his book, Totally Rad.
Yeah.
So we used one of his characters from Totally Rad, and here, I'll actually show you that one. That was a lot of fun. We used her, for a promo for our show, but we used Kate as well, and holy cow, that was fun. There it is. So we had fun with that one. And
now obviously this is the throwback to the old Coppertone commercial from the
70s. Absolutely.
And what's funny is instead of thinking of the Coppertone commercial, this made me think of one of the variants for Mike Barron's Florida Man novels.
That's amazing.
Because he did the same thing, but it's with an alligator,
Right.
And there's a beach. He's got like a lunchbox that has it on it. There's like a beach towel. I'm like, please tell me that beach towel fits in that lunchbox because I'll buy that bleep right now because that's hilarious.
I think that a lot of that stuff is great. Being able the throwbacks and the homages to things.
Oh,
you know what I mean? My only thing is the homages that we do on our covers, I like them to always be different. I don't like homaging something somebody's done 30 and 40 times already.
Or a million times like ASM 300.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that people do it, you know what I mean? But that's just not me. I don't want to be known for that. You know what I mean? I want to be able to give you an homage that makes you think about it, and it may be something different, but it takes you back.
Yeah.
You know, one of ours is an homage to a super famous painting, like I just mentioned. You're going to get a really cool one out of that. You know, I'll show it to you in a minute.
I'm just guessing, but I'm like.
Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And David actually sent me the inks to that today. It's stunning stuff, man. But there are all kinds of cool things to be done in comic books, right? And cool ways to promote things and cool things to get involved in. You know, talking about that and breaking the fourth wall. You know, so we did soap for the When the Winds Weep.
Oh yeah.
And it turned out ridiculously awesome. You know, like I couldn't believe how awesome it turned out. So for Greed, we're doing slime, like, and not the crappy slime either. So like we're doing like not like Nickelodeon slime, you know, but like almost like a flubber. Like, what was it called? It had like the stuff in it that made it not stick to things, but it was super slimy. You know, but you could put, like, if your dog got in like a tub of it, it could get out and you could pull it off without having to shave your dog. You know what I mean?
Well, there goes all that fun.
Right. Don't make me think horrible things over So there's all kinds of cool stuff going on, you know, with that. I think that'll be fun because it's like an ode to and it'll come in a neat little tub type of deal. It's going to be like the slime from Ninja Turtles if you had the play set, and from the Ghostbusters if you had the fire department. You know what I mean? So that you could like pour it on there and it would slide all the way through the building down on top of people and stuff. The only thing it won't do that used to do is get gunky and cake on things. As long as you pick it up, it won't dry on anything. But I'm excited to do that. And we'll figure out what other little things we're doing. I already know what we're doing for stretch goals and stuff. But now, thankfully, Kickstarter has decided to put us into where we can do add-ons now. So I didn't have to be like, hey, look, can you just add this much for this or add this much for that? Now you can actually go in and click add-on. So that's great. Like if you want a book signed or you want it graded or anything like that, you'll be able to do that and just have to click add it and it'll add it. Because the way Kickstarter did it before was you would literally have to send me a message and tell me what you wanted, or it doesn't tell me what you were trying to add. You know what I mean? So you have to reach back out and be like, hey, what did you want? And like surveys, man, you know, you got to answer these surveys. If you bought them,
I'm always, because I signed up for the newsletter for both Kickstarter and Indie.
Right.
Because I got stupid and I go, check back, boom. I just wanted to hurry up, sign up and move on with my day. And I'm like, so now I get stuff like every day. And they lie to you and they go, ooh, you know, crowdfunding survey. And you go to look at it and it's an ad for some stuff that you're like, oh, those are cool. Like the behind the headphones that are the buds that are like behind the ears with the magnetic locks and everything. And, you know, they're Bluetooth and, you know, rechargeable. Right. And you go to look, I'm like, $200? Are you out your mind?
Right.
Because I got a pair that looks just like that. It's exactly like that. I bought them for my daughter off of Woot like 10 years ago. And I just found them in unpacking. You know, she never used them because they were too big for her at the time. So they're sitting there. I think I paid $20 for them.
Right on. But that's how
I see, you need to make a profit on whatever you're making because it's business.
Right.
But do you really need to make a furniture profit?
Right.
You know?
So this time, and this is another point of contention in this world right now. What people don't understand is, and I use the listener because it's easy and I'll never forget. It was $6,000 for me to produce that book, and my Kickstarter I made 2,600. Okay, my goal was 24. I made 26. I made more after the Kickstarter, but the point is, it's a lot of money to produce a comic book, like a lot of money. It's especially when you do it of caliber. And I'm not being rude and I'm not demeaning anybody else, but I feel like if you're going to do it right. You know what I'm saying? Don't half-ass it.
It's a lot of money to do it the right way.
Right on. So don't half-ass it, and that's me writing my own story. I can't imagine what it would be like if I had to pay for somebody to write it. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to put into account the printing. The printing for When Winds Weep for just the Kickstarter was $800 and something before shipping. And that's with my EIN number. You know what I mean? So that's without taxes. So it'd have been $1,000 just for the printing after taxes. You know what I mean? And all these little nuances come up. And I think that people need to have a realistic idea of what it's like when you put it out.
That's why I like, there's a bunch of people, I'm not sure if you did it, but a lot of creators will put that graph down the bottom to show you where your money's going. And I'm well, here we go. Like pretty much half of all this money goes to shipping and printing.
Yep.
And the other half, and then, a big chunk out of my pocket, goes towards the artists.
That's right. Well, you look at like a decent page right now. So if you look at a decent interior page, they're anywhere between $100 and $150 to $160 is what you're looking at for a decent interior page.
Yeah.
And that's not even including, if people want more for their name or who they are, what their, you know what I'm saying, their accomplishments and stuff. So then you go to look at cover artists, right? Okay. Now you're at 24 pages generally in a comic book. All right. At 150, we'll say $150.
I remember when it was 32.
Yeah. So Fat Boys still exist, and I'll end up putting one out before long. But it has to do with the fact that things are so expensive. That's why people charge so much. You know what I mean? Like I made a decision today that all of my covers would be $15 for Greed, every cover. And before, with the listener though, I was doing 15 to 30 is what my covers would cost. Now, what people don't understand is each of those covers cost me anywhere between $200 and $600 a pop. I had 11 covers for that book. Okay. So now with Greed, it's about the same amount, but I've only got like 8 covers. But my point is, you have to have an idea. You have to have a realistic plan when you go in to do this. Like I get a lot of people, and I don't mind, but I get a lot of people since we've successfully done a few now that are like, hey, how do you succeed? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it's like, okay, well, I can't give you a recipe for success because that really doesn't exist. You know what I mean? It's, well, how did you get, Project We Love on Kickstarter within like 2 days of coming into Kickstarter? I don't know. I know that means that somebody liked your project. That's what it means. You know what I mean? And I'd like to hope that we get it with Greed in the next listener book and so on and so forth. But it becomes it's so much harder than people expect it to be. And
it's ridiculous.
I'll say this. I think the numbers are kind of skewed when you look at it, because I think there's only like 15% of Kickstarters make goal in comic books. So it's like, okay, that's one great thing about Inked, man. I don't know that anybody has not made their goal with Inked. I mean, I don't think they've not.
As far as I know, like I haven't talked to Kevin in almost a week now. Outside of like quick messages here and there, like he'll send me stuff 3:00 in the morning because he's
a vampire.
Because he's a vampire living on the friggin' West Coast.
Right.
I'm like, I just nodded off when I had ding, 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 ding.
Wake up.
Wake up, and I'm like, effing Kevin.
Oh no.
And I'll he sent me something for one of the books that's with him.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I got a hold of him. He's on Friday night.
Right.
He's like, cool. Deletes that message from the long line. He goes, okay, let me know when you have time to get this and this. And I go, okay. I have like 3 days this week that I'm double booked.
Look at you killing it, man.
Like, and you know why? It's because these fools keep moving to Washington State. Damn it, move to Tennessee. I know the internet sucks down there, but at least it's closer.
I see how it is.
And one is an actual novelist.
Right.
She's got a novel out on, and I don't know where she found the time to write a book with 10 kids and a full-time career.
Nope. That's like J.K. Rowling sitting in her car when they were poor writing Harry Potter.
Yeah, I'm like,
man.
so it's great. She's got a novel that's all complete that you can order off of Amazon.
That's exciting.
She's doing an audio drama of it, I believe, and Lunchbox Warren is doing like a little voiceover work. He's got like a couple of small plots. I go, I want to do voiceover work. I go, I don't want money for it. I just want to do it.
Right. Well, when I go to do an audiobook, I'll let you know. Because I'm learning a lot of things as well, just like everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
I learn every day. And one of the biggest things that we're doing coming up is the trade paperback that we're putting out for the listener after the next book. And it's book 1, 2, and 3. And it'll also be in Spanish and French. You'll be able to get it. So I'm excited to be able to, broaden our horizons with that a bit. Eric's already working on listener beginnings. Like I said, we're already laying down panels for Greed Book 2.
Mm-hmm.
The layouts are already done for Greed Book 3. So it's like we're getting there. We're putting stuff together. The team's a powerhouse, man. It's an absolute powerhouse.
Yeah, you guys are like so far ahead of like the curve on everything production wise.
Well, we try to be, man, because you know what really sucks, and I'll say this, and I never wanted to deal with it, and I still don't want to deal with it, is what happened, and it started with the listener when it came out. It was like, what happens if it takes off? And I've only got a month and a half to put out another book. That was my biggest fear in the world. I was super excited. I was terrified of Kickstarter, but I was more terrified of putting out a book and then not being able to continue it. Like, I was horrified. Mm-hmm. So then it was like, okay, well, here we go. We gotta do this, and this to get here. And when we get here, now it's all, I can sit back and I can edit and I can work on other things, and I don't have to be terrified of not having enough product. You know what I mean? I think that's horrifying for people. And I think that writer's block, right, is terrifying. I can say I haven't been hit with it. I'm thankful I haven't been hit with it. I'll have nights where I'm like, I don't feel like messing with that. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're going, like, I have my 2-year-old. I have a 2-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. And my wife works from home, just like I do. And it's like, when you get the 2-year-old all day, right? And you're trying to work at the same time. You've got a 2-year-old and you're trying to occupy him and teach him and make sure he gets all his stuff too. And we're thankful now that my mom and dad are or my mom is able to sit with my son, especially because of COVID, sit with my son and my nephews. So they're all about the same age. And because my mom was a teacher for like 25 years, and she actually gets to spend time with them. But the days that she doesn't take my son, it's literally like you're trying to occupy a 2-year-old, trying to write and trying to be a good husband and everything else. And it's like right now I have 4 projects going. So it becomes a battle of how to juggle everything you're doing. It's just like an artist, when an artist is like, hey, look, I've got this, and this I have to knock out by this day.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to get stuck like that with writing, and I was terrified of it. So I wrote my ass off like all summer long. After my uncle died, it was like I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and my daughter was home. Well, she's home now because of COVID, but she was home, not at school because it was summer break, and she helped with my son and stuff, and my mom helped with my son. And it was just like, I was able to do so much. And I think that's my biggest fear, right? Failure sucks. Everybody's scared of that. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, my biggest fear was not having enough content to give to people. And not just not having enough content, but having good content. You wanted to make sure it was good. You don't want to give people bull spit. You know what I mean? I don't want to give them the crap end of the stick.
Yeah, you don't want to, push out like a fluffer issue just to,
right.
Fill space or.
Absolutely.
I'll be like, this is the reprint, and it's the director's cut. There's no color.
Yeah. You want that one
for twice as much. Thank you.
Right, absolutely.
Thank you, Marvel and DC.
I didn't want to do that. I tell you what we did do when it comes to stuff like that, though. With When Winds Weep, Gwen, when she colored Marissa's piece, her cover, she sent me 3 beautiful variations of what she colored. Mm-hmm. And she did a red one, a pink. Well, she did a pink one, a red one, and a blue one. And the blue one we kept specifically for people that had helped us and looked out for us and stuff like that. As well as the Kickstarter. Like you'll never be able to get a hold of that blue one outside of that, unless somebody decides to give it up. You know what I mean? But that may happen because Marissa's taken off like a rocket. So eventually you may be able to get your hands on that one. You won't get mine though. So, but there's been a lot of things, a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and situating myself in this business. And we talk about it a lot on shows. It's a big ocean of talent. Mm-hmm. It's a big ocean of talent. Just like it's a big world of podcasters. You know what I'm saying? I'm not you guys. Kevin's an amazing podcaster, and I do decent on the show, but I'm not part of that movement. You know what I mean? It's a large movement, especially now.
Oh yeah.
And getting noticed and getting seen and part of that scenario, it's a dog eat dog podcast world out there, man. So I look at it like the art world and the scene. I look at it like, okay, look, I may be a little fish in this big ocean of talent. Okay. But I'm a BA fish, you know what I mean? And you're going to pay attention to me. And I'll say that now confidently because I couldn't say that before, when it came to the listener. And I'm about to hit my 2nd year in this business. And I could not say that much during the first year. I was scared of doing it. I was, under the gun with it. And now it's like, okay, let's proceed. You know what I mean? The confidence is there. I'm happy it's there. The reviews are in. There's a whole. I rarely get a negative review, and I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, but it's just honesty. I rarely get a negative one. But I'll say one that I'm getting a lot more is apparently Netflix needs to pay attention to me, and I hear that a lot. So I'm excited about that. Eventually, maybe someone will see that needs to see it. But those reviews are coming in, and they're awesome. And let me tell you, if you're not walking light on your feet one day or on your wheels rolling lightly, you will when someone tells you they want to see your stuff on Netflix. You'll walk a little bit lighter that day, I promise. And I think one of the greatest things about this is the fan base. Like the amount of people that have come out and enjoy the books and enjoy the series. I think that Greed will resonate with them because it's, even if it's a different series, it's still my writing style. Okay. It's like when you go into Marvel, and I'll talk about it because I'm not a fan. I'll throw it out there all day. So when Bendis was writing Marvel, he was writing like everything in Marvel, right? He was putting out like every book they had. And everybody was so excited. They even did like a special goodbye edition to Bendis, right? So it was like, okay, well, I want people to notice me in a positive manner. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be like that. But my writing style is the same. I don't change it up for Greed. It's just a different story. You know, I don't know how to say that any differently. Like it is really it's just a different story in the same world with different characters from different points of view. You know, if you like the listener, you'll like Greed, and vice versa. You know what I mean? You'll like both books, but they both offer different things to different people. You know, if you don't know anything about PTSD, I mean, that doesn't matter in Greed. You know what I mean? But PTSD is a big deal in the listener, and we bring it up. You know, the understanding of it. You know, we use it for memory. You know, we use it to show backstory. You know what I mean? It's a very prevalent thing in certain people's lives. Whereas a 10-year-old kid knows nothing about PTSD, generally speaking. I hope none of them do. That's awful if they do. But you know, they look at the world through a different set of eyes, like a wonder almost. You know, like me, if there's a monster coming out of my bed, I'm trying to shoot him in the face. That's my opinion of it. You know what I mean? Whereas the 10-year-old kid, my son, is like, "Who are you?" You know, leaning over the side of the bed. What are you up to? You know?
Hey.
Yeah.
You're squishy.
All day. That's him. He wants to know what's going on. You know, so I think that's interesting. And writing from that perspective, like, you know, you're not supposed to do this, you'll get in trouble. But it's exciting. You know, you may want to do it just to see what happens. I love both my children. But I'm telling you what, if I tell my 10-year-old not to do something, she's going to do it just to see why I didn't want her to do it. You know,
pushing boundaries.
That's right. I feel like I've got the preteen terror, and I've got the terrible twos at the same time. So, well, you've been there.
I'm there now. Mine's about to be 13 in a few weeks, and let me tell you, more than once I've looked at her and thought to myself, I'm like, thank God you're not a boy. I would have slapped you through the wall.
Right. Yeah, they're wild, man. They're wild.
But like it's almost like they're taught to be disrespectful, like the last few generations. I'm like, man, if I had said like half the stuff she said to me to my mother, she wouldn't be here because I would have been dead.
Right. Absolutely. I'm with you. I totally understand that.
I might have ended up being a spirit, in the listener.
Yeah. You'd have been a noble spirit. Yeah, I love it. How'd
you get here? Told my mother to shut up.
Oh, yeah. That'd have been me. Don't feel bad. That'd have been me all day. But I think that we have the next issue in the listener is called Beginnings. I think it's going to draw people in even further than they are. Because I got a really cool compliment from Demon Phil the other day. And he was like, it didn't matter how I read the second book. I was still drawn into it emotionally. And I think that's very powerful, and with Beginnings, we're actually going to take you guys back to the first Addison, his grandfather. So we'll because we're Addison the third basically now. They call him Junior at times, but he's still basically the third. And it's interesting to go back and show you guys the very first listener, how he became what he is, why there's a certain demon that can't stand the listener, and all these different aspects of it. And then we also find out a little bit more about Sonny, why Sonny did what he did, what's going on with him. For some reason, one of my main antagonists is everybody's favorite character. So I'm having a lot of fun with that at the same time. We just found out a friend of ours is doing a blank cover with his face on it. So that's pretty cool. I like writing Sonny a lot. I think that he's that guy that we all like dread when we're dealing with situations. The guy that, you know, you don't want to have to deal with, whether he's an employee or he's a buddy or whatever else. And with book 3 beginnings, it's the hunt is on, man. It is, you know what? You better get away quick, brother, because there's a couple folks that are after you now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you've read When Winds Weep or you've seen it, you know there's a couple dudes that are, you know, hot on his heels. So that's the second half of book 3 is basically Nostos on the trail of Sonny. So we're excited to see that. We start introducing what we call Yogai, and Yogai are actually it's a Chinese description for demons. And you know, we're in China at that point in time, so they're very prevalent in that area. So we'll get into a little bit of that. And you'll start seeing why they call them noble spirits in book 3, how powerful they are, you know, where they stand on the food chain of things per se. And Nostos is badass. Oh, BA, man, he's a lot of fun to write about. Because, you know, you guys only got two issues of my characters, and then you got new iterations of them, we'll call it, for those of you that haven't read my book so far. Get new iterations of my characters, and with the exception of Addy, but who comes into his own at the end of book 2 anyway. So we're going into that. We're gonna do we've got book 0 that's in the works right now. Book 0 is all about Addy Senior, which is Addy's father, what he did as the listener or what he did not do as the listener. Why the gods and demons and stuff have no faith in the listener any longer. You know, a lot of that has to do with him as a character. Why we came across the titles for When Winds Weep, you know, and what came about the 11 by 17 posters we were putting out, you know, the RIP listener posters and stuff, you know, why we put those out. So you'll get to see those come to fruition. How Addy becomes the listener. There can only be one listener at a time. So Addy only makes it through book 2 because he becomes the listener. That's the only reason he lives through book 2. So we're really excited to be able to bring out book 0 as well. That'll be coming out here in the next few months. And that's all about his father, how his father dies, why his father dies. You actually meet his father at the end of book 1 in a bar. It says a lot about the character, and I wanted you guys to feel that emotion because alcohol does things to people. Not everybody can drink it healthily. Not saying that alcohol is healthy at all, but there are some people that imbibe too much. You know what I mean? And it changes them as people. And the Native American community was hit extremely hard by it. And I wanted you guys to get an idea of what was going on with that kind of stuff at the time. And you actually get to see his noble spirits at the end of book 1, actually. Very last page of book 1, you get to see his noble spirits.
Splash.
So it was a lot of fun for that one. I enjoyed that. That page actually almost didn't even make it into that book. So really excited it did. And now, you know, how's he die? You know, why does he die? So to be frank, from a writer's perspective, he had to die to create our current listener, you know. But the reason he dies and the backstory behind how he dies and everything and why he's an alcoholic, he's an alcoholic for a very different reason than people would believe. You know, the average alcoholic, you know, for a lot of you, you may not have ever gone down that rabbit hole with alcoholism, but he can't hear them when he drinks. So he tunes them out. It's like Professor X, right? He's always hearing everybody all around him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy's got no way of tuning them out, you know, so he's slowly losing his mind the whole time. And instead of embracing the listener, he rejects the listener. So he rejects all these beings that come to him for help or want to be seen or need somebody to even just associate with. You know, he rejects them. So Addy, you know, our current listener, will have to deal with all that eventually. You know, the reactions, the blowback from the previous listener not being the listener. So we're really excited to bring that to you guys. so super excited about Greed, the team that's on Greed. You'll see those cover artists flop back and forth just like we do with Listener now. You'll see some of those guys coming over to the Listener. You'll also get to see some of those guys and gals do their particular covers, because some of those names are known for certain covers that we've not been able to let them go ham on yet. So, like I said, Greed gets to, we get to drop our hair a little bit. So you'll get to see some wild covers for Greed, starting with book 2, because we introduced the Queen of Horrors in book 2. So you guys will start getting to see some fun covers for those of you that are, into the little bit of risque and fun covers. We'll be doing a little bit of that. Mind you, I understand that not everybody's into that. So there will be cover swaps and stuff like that. There's never going to be a time when you have to have something on a cover from me. There'll always be swipes. And for those of you that don't know what a swipe is, it's literally 2 versions of the same book with certain things covered or not covered. So we'll take care of you like that. But yeah, everybody's going to go ham on Greed, man. We're all excited. I'm excited to be able to show you guys this amazing, group of people. I mean, not just a couple cool folks. I mean, this is a plethora of awesome talent, and in all kinds of different ways, from traditional painting styles to modern comic styles to all kinds of different stuff. April 23rd, man, Greed goes live. I'm really excited. I'm learning things, right? Like as I go through this, because I get tired of, going, man, I wish I knew how to do that. So I'm coming up with all kinds of cool crap, you know what I mean, to do with the book and to show things with the Listener. And Greed, like that, the logo I did the other day with Cade sitting on top of the Greed logo. I did that. I thought that was awesome. You know what I mean? I was excited about that. And y'all joke, but it's cool. But so we're pushing through. We're doing all kinds of fun stuff. I'm writing the novel. I'm writing the game. The Greed collaboration with the Listener in the novel. Cade nor Oz will be main characters in the novel. They'll be characters that jump in and out. It'll always be from Addie's perspective. But I'm at like 200 and something pages now. I'm nowhere near done with that. So there's a lot going on. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm like 30, almost 38 completed books done for the Listener. So you guys have got a lot to look forward to. You got the Jonah and the Whale Ahab stuff. You've got the Louisiana voodoo stuff. I mean, the Feolod Irish werewolf stuff. There's a whole lot to be seen. That's not even talking about the Chupacabra stuff or the Llorona stuff. There's a lot of miniseries, guys. A lot of little small stories that are tied together. But I like to continue my books. I don't like to jump stories. So if it ended at one, it'll pick up right on the next one where you left off with the first one, or the previous book. We've got the small mini series coming up with the Spiritual Prison. That's going to be a lot of fun because a lot of people have asked what happens to a demon or a god or a monster or whatever, what have you, dies. It's got to go somewhere, right? What's going on, Pops?
Hey, Pops.
It's got to go somewhere. So we create this Spiritual Prison for it to go into. And one of the neatest things about the Spiritual Prison was it's actually based on my nightmares as a kid. I used to have recurring nightmares. And like they were so bad, they started when I was like 8 years old and went till I was like 13. And I would be in this, like I would be in hell and finding my way around hell. And it was just these massive like black obelisks and stuff that you would walk through and just, like smoke and brimstone and fire all over the place. But you're walking on these like small walkways, right? And if you looked up in the sky, it would be like Lucifer looking down on you. And this is an 8-year-old kid, man. This is scariest stuff. Well, this nightmare got me through college. Like it got me into college and through college because I would do designs off of it. Because when I turned 10, my Uncle Ricky actually gave me my first notebook and my first pencil set. And I would wake up and I would draw my nightmares. I wish I still had that stuff because that stuff's probably really cool to have now. But I used to draw them, and all I have left is from memory. And what I did for college is once a week for like 8 months is I would send in a piece, a design piece from these nightmares. So this prison is going to be my nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And we've got a fun way of getting there that we've tied to, you know, the Native American theologies and stuff. So you'll see how that works coming up shortly. But we're in China till book 6, kids. Book 6, and we'll be back in the States. So we've got a lot of combat to do between book 3 and book 6. We've got a lot of backstory to show you guys. You know, if you picked up Guy's journal, you'll be getting backstories on the 7 deadly sins, the 4 horsemen, all kinds of other characters. The only character you will not get backstory from is greed in that book, because of the fact the character who we've not actually shown yet in the greed book or have talked about much in it is one of the 7 deadly sins, and we don't know why or how he's involved, or at least I'm not telling y'all how he's involved in the greater state of things, and why the 7 deadly sins are working with Adesanya, and why Adesanya is, you know, pulling strings to get the gods to basically turn on each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, we're bringing in Lilith into book 2 of Greed. You know, Lee and Ari into book 3 of Greed as well, or book 3 of Greed. We're bringing Kukulane into book 3 of Greed, and we're bringing the Sin War, or not War, sorry. Oh my gosh, Wrath. Wrath is who we're bringing into book 3 for Greed. So I'm really excited about that. For those of you that are getting, like I said, Guy's journal, you'll get all the cool images for these characters and stuff. The original Gabby's takes on my character designs for these characters. But Wrath has possessed a young, so the appearances can change with the people that the sins possess. So Wrath has possessed a young Nazi child during World War I, and he keeps that child because he believes he has the most wrath he's ever seen in an individual. And to me, the idea of like an 11-year-old kid dressed as a Nazi, it just is terrifying. You know what I mean? Because he speaks like a grown man. You know what I mean? He's possessed by a being that's been around for hundreds of years. So the interactions between him and Oz are going to be very interesting, because this is one of the original big bads that's standing in front of you. You know, so you've also got the horsemen that are going to be involved in all this stuff, which are trying to stop the listener because they believe the listener is doing all the, you know, the deeds that are happening. So he's being framed by these characters. And that's not spoiler. You guys will find that out real quick. You know what I mean? As things go. But I'm excited. I'm real pumped to share this stuff with you guys. Lots of stuff for Will's show, guys. Props for him. Lots of exclusives. I try to give them to Will before I give them to anybody else. And there's a lot going on. It's just a very big world, man. It's a very large world. And now we got 2 books. So 2 books back to back that you guys will get. Like I said, when one comes to your house, get ready because the next Kickstarter is about to pop off. You know what I mean? So when it does, it's gonna rotate like that. You should be getting a book from us at least once every month and a half, depending on shipping, because shipping sucks. You know, I understand it does, but it's got to come from our printers to us, then back to y'all. You know what I mean? So it takes time. I'm doing everything I can circumvent that stuff for you guys, even charging just a little bit more for shipping, just so I can get it expedited to y'all. And it's not a lot more because my shipping is almost null and void for people in the United States. It's like $5, you know what I mean, for expedited shipping. So I do what I can. I make sure you guys get your bubble wrapped books and your Geminis and all that jazz, so we get it all to you the right way. We joked the other day. I dropped I dropped a CGC book after we packed it off of my my landing onto a table, which is like 20 feet, just to see how our packing was going. And it didn't make a dent. So I'm really excited about that. And you guys will be getting your books in no time through us, But stuff does happen, acts of God and whatnot. So, we'll make sure you get it. The soap, for those of you that ordered When Winds Weep, is coming in. I'm really excited about that. It smells great, takes you right there. I wouldn't drive after I washed with it, though, because you don't want anybody thinking you've been imbibing a little bit when you drive down the road. But, it's a good smell.
It happens, yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So there were two things that I kind of like went to when you said certain things. Mm-hmm. Like in Creed, when you talked about the centaur going through the house.
Yeah.
And trashing the place. The first thing I thought of was the Bumblebee movie, where Bumblebee was like touching stuff and destroyed their entire living room.
Absolutely. And that's what it's like. They're literally fighting up and down down the hall, from the bedroom, down the hall, outside. Mm-hmm. And this being is 8.5 foot tall. Like I said, you're talking 450, 500 pounds. It's coming through your second story hallway. So it's a really interesting concept to us and the team. Everybody did really well with it. It came out, looks great. You have to make it interesting, right? Like combat is something you have to, and I enjoy writing it because it's a lot of fun to me. But you have to make it interesting. It can't be like a WCW or a WWE match. You know what I mean? Where our the heel is beating up dude, and then the face turns around and he's like, I immediately turn this match around. You know what I mean? You don't want to write like that because people see through it. It's very opaque. So I try to write it to where it's in the listener. I made it so that you never know who's going to make it through a book of mine. You know what I mean? And I think that's very prevalent in my writing style. So with Greed's the same way. I wanted to make sure you never knew how it would end. If there's a fight, it's not Ninja Turtles, which I love Ninja Turtles with all my heart. I'm a huge fan. But it's not that all our turtles are going to make it to the next issue. And that every time. I think the only time we lost a turtle, it's been a couple times, in Image, when Slash actually became a good guy and stayed behind to bar the way so turtles could get away. You know what I mean? There's been a couple times where, Mutanimals did die, but at the same time, 9 times out of 10, we knew the turtles were going to make it to the next issue. Even if they were getting the crap beat out of them, they were going to come back and they were going to win. Mm-hmm. I don't want you guys to have a feeling like that. I feel like that's safe. And I don't want you guys to have a feeling like everybody is safe all the time. Because there's a couple things that we've talked about in the listener and in Greed that are not finite, and that's death and time. So I'm not saying we've got Dragon Balls and we can bring people back to life or anything with a wish. But I'm saying that not everybody's going to make it through every issue that you're reading. And I love that. I love the fact that I'm putting out a book where you don't know if all the characters you like are going to make it. And I'm sorry that they may not all make it. I am. But it produces a sense of almost like you're not all powerful when you're reading this book. And I think that's important, because we see all these characters that are just overly powerful. They walk in a room and they're just like, oh yeah, I just took out every bad guy that was there. The only guy that you really see get the crap beat out of him, outside of Peter Parker, who is still my favorite, outside of Peter Parker in the Marvel universe, is like Wolverine or the Hulk, because they're just going to regenerate all the damage back. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the Wolverine gets ripped in half. Guess what? We don't get to see the rest of that issue. That never came back out. But I would have loved to have seen that issue come out in the Ultimate Comics where he ripped Wolverine in half. But there are certain things we just don't get. And I don't want to anybody ever be like, I didn't give you something. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you go to eat a meal at a nice restaurant, you get your full course. You know, I don't ever want somebody to be like, hey man, you left my water. I was supposed to get a water. You didn't bring it to me. I don't ever want that. You know, I dread that because I'm my own worst critic. I'm literally beating myself up all the time. Is this good? Is that great? How do I do this? How do I feel about that? What do you think about that? You know what I mean? And I think that making it to where people have to question or are wondering is the most important thing about it. Because we know that, hey, look, you know, if you die in Marvel, you could be back. I mean, look at Logan. I mean, that blew my mind. That's a whole other conversation altogether, but it really blew my mind. You know, I was like, wow, this is real. This is great. The story's together. And now all of a sudden he's back. And it was just like, okay, we just did it with the Hulk again. You know, the Hawkeye arrow at the eye like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden it's the Immortal Hulk. I get it. You know what I mean? It all goes back to IPs and original IPs. You know, and I think that's one of the most powerful things about indie comic books. It's our IP. You know what I mean? It's if it's good, I'll keep doing it. If the character's not getting the response that I need or want, I can move them over to the other book. You know what I'm saying? If they're not getting it there in that style, well, then they need to be replaced. It's not like I don't want to put them on a back burner for 5 years and then just pull them up out of a box because I didn't have anything else to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, hell, if you look at it, you think eight issues a year probably for each of these books, give or take. And so I'm 36 issues done for a fact with the listener. So that's like 6 years. You know what I mean? Or yeah, 6 years that I could put out content that I've got written for the listener right now. So that's why I want people to be confident. The book is there. It's not going anywhere. You know, it exists. You don't have to worry about not getting the next book. I think that's a very valid question, though, because people are like, oh, well, you know, I got this cool book off the indie market. You know, it's cool, da-da-da-da. I can't find the rest of them. I want to read them, but I can't find them. That's like Blackthorn. I love a bunch of the books they put out, you know, but can never find them. You know, the original Werewolf series, you know, from way back. I would love to be able to find those books, but it's like pulling teeth. And I don't want people to have that problem. You know, I want you to be able to know, hey, look, the trade paperback's coming out. This is coming out. That's coming out. The digital books are there for people that like to read digital books. You know what I'm saying? And like for Greed right now, oh my gosh, I was just telling Kevin about it. We're going to put all 3 of our digital books on there for $12 total, all 3 of them. So you get the listener, Addie, you get the listener When Winds Weep, and then you get Greed Little Green Men, all for $12. You know, so I'm excited to be able to do that, and that'll just continue to grow, and it's probably going to stay about that price range, but it's just going to continue to grow as our volumes get larger. You know, the more books we got, the more PDFs you'll get. But yeah, all kinds of fun stuff, man. I'm excited.
And this will be a good segue to plug the movie night show. Because as soon as you mentioned the little Nazi boy, I immediately flashed to that movie, Act Pupil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, by the way, scared the shit out of me the first time I watched it.
For sure. You know who it takes me back to, and my wife laughed about it, is the movie, was it Rob Zombie's 13?
Mm-hmm.
With the shorter gentleman. We don't use the M word, you know what I mean? The shorter gentleman that literally had the Hitler goatee, but he was speaking Spanish, or the Hitler mustache. He was speaking Spanish, you know, which was super weird to me, you know. But he was walking around and had the whole getup on, you know, and it was like, that's how I see that character, and it terrifies me. Like
you know, it's been 80 years. He might have picked up another language.
No, there you go. I mean, but I think the idea of the character is terrifying. The fact that he's strong enough to do the things he does. And the short stories, man, for those of you that are really interested and are collectors and stuff, either reach out to me personally or wait for the second print for Guy's Journal, because the stories that we put together were amazing. I mean, they were edited by 2 or 3 different folks, and just not just the art. The art's beautiful, but the stories that we the backstories for these characters was just phenomenal to write, because we went ham. Like it wasn't like writing a comic book. You know what I mean? I don't know, you probably get 15 novel pages into one page of this comic book, this oversized comic book. So I'm really excited that we can do that for you guys. 60 pages, stunning work, man, just stunning work. But yeah, so like his backstory has to do with the fact that he gets chosen, and the minute he gets chosen, he kills a group of Jewish children, and is literally like, that were there visiting, that were friends of their family, you know, and he kills them, and then he kills his mother and his father. And it was probably the darkest thing I've ever written in my entire life. And I've written some really messed up stuff. So it was definitely magnum opus for me, Guy's Journal, with these short stories. Not comic book wise, but short stories was definitely the peak of my career so far. I'm 35 years old, been writing D&D and werewolf campaigns and vampire campaigns for almost 25 years, you know, and I think that this was probably the scariest stuff I've ever written to date. Really proud of that book. Can't wait to get it to you guys. And a couple people will be getting them as surprises. I'm excited about that too. It is taking a little bit longer, but there's so much work that was put into this versus the actual comic book, which does have a lot of work. I'm not saying it doesn't. It just 60 pages is a lot more than 24, you know, so you guys are going to get some gnarly stuff. But yeah, segue into the show. Super excited about the show. You know, Jim Noble's a stand-up guy. He's a lot of fun to listen to. We had a great time. We had a ton of viewers last week, guys. And everybody's talking the whole time. So it's not like a show where we're not talking or anything. You're literally asking questions, and fun people are getting involved. And, you know, there's guests showing up every time you turn around into that show the other night. I'm sure that'll continue. Yeah, I mean, and plenty of fun folks, man. And like I said, we'll get you on there. Cause you're a movie guy. We'll get you on there. We'll BS a little bit. You know, I gotta get Kevin on there. At one point, Kevin was throwing some funny curveballs in there for conversation. But let me give you guys this. Make sure that you pay mind to these guys that are looking out for you, that are taking care of you, that are promoting your books, that are showing off your stuff, because of the fact that if we didn't have them in this day and age, we'd almost be like that dude that's like without a paddle, right? You're in your canoe and you're trying to get down the river, but you can only reach so many folks. So look out for your promoters. Even if you pay them, whatever, they're still promoting you. You know what I mean? Look out for your promoters. Look out for your Kickstarter teams, your artists. You know, it's all making a living. This is all like a circle of life type of thing. You know, we all need to get there. I'm not saying you got to look out for everybody else's team, but make sure you look out for yours at least. Yeah. You know, I mean, I've had a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. Starting year 2, you know, we're starting year 2 on this journey together. A lot of people don't make it through 6 months. So I'm thankful. I'm eternally grateful to everybody that's backed us, supported us, all our fans. And I've said it before, a fan will get you through a bad week real quick, you know, real quick, you know, and just be cool to each other, man. You know, see a lot of people, you know, bad mouthing other folks and whatnot. Don't bad mouth anybody. You know, there's a lot of people that just get tired of hearing it. You know, you see these artists and the writers and stuff that'll blackball people because they're bad mouthing people. They don't want to deal with it. You know, it's a positive industry, man. Be positive together, push each other through it. I'm going to keep hanging out. I'm going to keep hanging out with my buddy Will, the Joker fan, you know, and we're going to keep putting out books. We're going to have a good time doing it.
For sure.
I don't have much choice.
Yeah, because you've written 26 of them. What else are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I eventually want to bungee jump.
Yeah, not me.
You didn't see the one where they put the chick in the chair and they pushed her off the side of the thing? The chair is connected.
Yeah. I would leave dead bodies at the top of that thing when they push me off.
And that's not because the gas you left up there in fear, right? That's just.
Oh yeah, that and they probably stepped in something and slipped off the edge.
You gotta wear pants that day, man. You can't wear shorts.
And then somebody like 3 miles down the road goes, "You smell curry?"
Oh no! That's the next soap, curry.
Oh, good Lord.
All right, well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on as usual. It was a lot of fun. Don't forget, like I said, April 23rd. We'll be doing a release party over on Comic Camaraderie. We'll have fun with that. We'll probably get you over there for that too. It's just gonna be a good time, and I think Greed will be a new listener, almost like just a new iteration and a good time with folks. So don't be squeamish though, because it's not as rough, but it's rough. We have a good time, pushing the boundaries and pushing the limits, and not suitable for children. I hate having to say that, but that's a fact. So I'm not going to let my daughter read it. I don't suggest you let your kids read it. But whatever, they're your kids. You want to let them read it, you let them read it. I appreciate the patronage regardless. So,
well, if you can get my kid to read anything, let me know.
I will do my darndest.
If it doesn't say Minecraft on it, I'm not reading that. It's not Minecraft.
Oh no!
Oh my God! Minecraft. She gets mad. She gets really mad when she's acting up. What are you doing? Playing Minecraft. I go, oh, Minecraft.
Oh no!
She gets she gets bent out of shape, slams her door, and locks it behind her.
Oh man, she's gonna beat you up. I'm scared of my 2-year-old, man. I don't mess with him.
That's why I stay in the motorized chair opposed to the regular chair. So in the regular chair, she can push me. She can push me off a cliff in the regular chair. This one weighs like 400 pounds, and she doesn't know the buttons and levers to push to be able to like move it like even an inch. So
right. She's gonna try to push you out of the house. See you get back in now.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like the good son, but it's the good daughter.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is too.
Oh no. Well, like I said, I appreciate you, Will. It was mad fun. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys.
Oh yeah.
As always, you can find me at the Listener Facebook page. You can find me at Dustin Brunell on Facebook. I'm pretty cool with almost anybody on it. Answer questions, whatever you guys have got. I'll be at ICCC on April 18th to the 19th, or 17th to the 19th of this month. Oh my gosh, 16th to the 18th. Real sorry about that. So I'll be 16th to the 18th, ICCC. Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm pulling up my calendar. I'm like,
yeah, 16th to the 18th.
He's just Friday, pulling out numbers. He's just pulling numbers out of somewhere. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 16th, 17th, 18th this month, I'll be there.
And then the following Friday is the
release. Yeah,
is the release. So
so I'm really excited. I got to get all my stuff done in a row for that. One of those days coming up, I'm sure the When Wins Wheat books will be getting here, and I'll be doing like an opening for those and showing those off to you guys. But yeah, so if you're in Nashville or anywhere in the local area, swing back by ICCC, and we're gonna have a lot of fun doing that. Even if I have to sit in a fishbowl, I promise I'll make it a good time for y'all. Michael Bihn's gonna be there. I'm really excited about that. Huge fan of Terminator, huge fan of Aliens, huge fan of Tombstone. So he's gonna be hanging out.
You're not my huckleberry.
But I love that movie. Val Kilmer, man, a monster before his time, even.
Oh yeah.
I mean, throat surgery and stuff, and still went back at it and whatnot. Whew. But like I said, guys, I'll be around. It's easy to find the listenercomics.com. anything like that. Like I said, reach out to me personally. I'm not above people, I promise you. But yeah, so check it out. Enjoy The Listener when you guys see it. Enjoy Greed when it comes out. Make sure you check out the Kickstarter on April 23rd. Get yourself some slime. It's going to be awesome. And, don't forget, someone is always listening.
And speaking of which, a little peace, love, and hey, read some comic books,
Absolutely. Get on it.